it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Can you believe that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Envy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kizzy Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called? Podcast, period. Or you're ugly. Period. Power approved.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
I'm doing all right. Thank you. Finally, the circle's aligned to where there is no more shadowing. We finally come together. We're going to have a good interview. And hopefully you make some people smile, laugh, and cry.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Hey guys, we're going to have our regular show tonight. DK and Jaden are both standing by. We're going to talk all things NWA. We're going to talk wrestling. I want to take a moment to talk about Media Mike. Demonetized Mike, we'd often joke about. A man who was full of heart and spirit, who enjoyed being a part of this community, who spent time with us each and every Wednesday and Thursday. And I know Mike had some health issues, but this was pretty unexpected. I was notified from Tony Givens, who actually put out a nice note to the Innovative Wrestling fans because Mike was a part of that circle. And, there he is wearing an Alliance Wrestling shirt because Mike supported what we do here. And we had a lot of ideas about Mike somehow joining in some form of capacity the weekly offerings of the live streams. Mike was going to help out with the website. And of course, none of that happened. There is a very sweet hour-long interview that Mike did with Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. And either Jeremy's going to publish that at some point, or maybe we will here. But I can't say enough nice things about Mike. He was always a friend and somebody who loved talking wrestling, whether it be on the Discord while watching NWA Powerrr or joining us here on the live streams, and he's going to be missed. And so I'm just going to take a second here to have a moment of silence for Mike. And if you guys have a higher being you believe in, please send your prayers to Mike, to him. And if you just, if you don't have that, just send your positive vibes to Mike's family through this tough time. Hey guys, welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information. My name's J. Cal. Of course, with me is DKM, and below us is Jaden. We are the OG Alliance guys. We're here every Thursday to talk to you, that hashtag NWA fam, about all things wrestling. DK, how are you today?
Well, I guess all things considered, I'm doing okay.
Jaden, how are you hanging in there?
I'm hanging low to the ground.
Do any of you have anything you'd like to say about Mike before we proceed with our show today?
DK?
We didn't always see eye to eye, but he was a fun guy.
Jaden?
I unfortunately didn't know him that well, other than occasional comments on the Discord or anything like that. So I don't know that much about him. But if you love wrestling and you're a true wrestling fan, you'll definitely be missed, because we need more of them in this world.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about Mike is he had perspective. It's one of the reasons why Jaden is such a central part of this show, is because of his history, his connections, his context. He is able to bring context to the show. Mike was able to bring context to the show. A lot of people don't know this, but Mike did train to become a pro wrestler. He had some matches, and he was very close in the past with Biggie Biggs, your Biggie Biggs, Jaden. And I don't know what happened to Mike. I know that he had been suffering for some time. So for that, I'm glad that his suffering is done. I don't know what he passed away from. I know that he was in the hospital, but I don't know any more details than that. He was, like Luthez said, he was a great spark plug for the chat. Definitely going to be missed. Always fun. Always had a very good spirit. And him and Willie would sit there be talking about food during the pre-party. It'd always make me hungry. But he's going to be missed. And the world doesn't stop for anybody. We keep talking wrestling. We keep talking NWA. But much like a lot of our friends from the past, he's going to be on my heart and in my head for quite some time. With that being said, welcome to the show. Trying to be upbeat. Willie, let's get to Willie's joke of the day. Tires eats Doko locks as if they were M&Ms. Is that some sort of laxative? I'm unfamiliar with that.
Doko lax, yes.
Doko lax. And then Willie says, "Hi guys, Fuma had a massive cleanup. Tyrus ate 12 boxes of Doko lax." So thank you to Willie to bring a little bit of humor, because I don't want to be too sad.
That sometimes happens to me after I eat Taco Bell. Or when Jay eats fully loaded deep fried tater tots.
Yeah, that too. James says, "Man, that one episode with Mike, we talked about deep dish pizza for 30 minutes. Good times." Yeah, I did. I apologize because I didn't think I was going to tear up.
Stop cutting those onions.
It's we develop a community here, and I think of you guys as family. And when we lost Rob Allison, it hurt really bad, and I didn't think I'd be crying today, but here I am. And we've lost a few friends along the way, and but I guess that's what a community does. I guess we grieve together. And Mike would probably be laughing at me right now, crying about him. But nevertheless,
he would.
He'd probably tell me something in the chat that would get us demonetized. So I'm going to try to put that away.
In his honor, I'm going to say a lot of inappropriate things today.
Thank you. That's what's needed.
That's unusual, Jaden.
I know. I like our new format. We're trying a new format today, guys. DK is going to be grumpy. I'm going to say some hilarious, inappropriate things, and Jay's going to turn out to be racist.
Well, apparently I'm also going to cry. This is the first time I've ever cried on an episode of the podcast. What the hell?
You weren't on that episode with me and DK and Wardell Walker. It made us both cry.
Yeah, we cried.
So, anyways, next week is the Crockett Cup. In less than a week from today, I'm going to be doing an episode of the Alliance Guys podcast in the same state as another member of the Alliance Guys. DK and I will both be in Texas as we get ready for Crockett Cup. And I'm excited about that. I have no clue what's going to happen in Forney, Texas. But DK and I we're going to go to a baseball game. We're going to go have some barbecue. We're going to have a good time because that's what friends do. Right, DK?
Right. And I'm not charging you much for it at all.
Thanks.
What team are you going to go see?
Actually, oddly enough, the Angels are in town, so it's going to be great. We're going to go to Texas, our ballpark in Arlington, excuse me. And we're trying to get Manimal, the Bull the Manimal, and our old pal Kevin Douglas to go with us. Hopefully that all works out.
You've met both of them, though, in the past.
Yeah. They used to come out here to Hollywood all the time.
Yeah.
So, Bull and Kevin are very close friends. And then you guys remember Kevin used to be a part of this podcast for a very long time. So,
yeah, we need a new intro until he comes back.
Yeah, well, see, the thought was he was going to come back, right? Like, that was the thought. Not so much.
No, he went and started his own podcast about baseball.
Yeah, well, I mean, and look, that's awesome, dude. Like, when I started this was about it was about being fun and having fun with my buddies. And I think we've talked about this before, but I think Jaden was the first person to call in. And Jaden went totally into business for himself, putting over the sensational one and the magnificent one.
The divine one.
Divine one. And then talking about Patch. And then DK was like the second person to call in. And I thought, Jesus, I made it. I got 2 listeners. And then it turns out the 2 listeners became my co-hosts, and we quit getting listens from them. So, but yeah, this show has grown from a very long time, and we've developed some really good relationships. And, I think of DK and Jaden as my brothers, and you guys in the chat, you're part of my family. So if you have ever something happen to you, make sure a next of kin can reach out to let us know. That's just me asking personally, because a couple times I've looked up people's obituaries who used to be a part of our community, and that sucks too. All
so
right,
you're the baby brother, Jay?
Maybe. I'm the one that's crying, so probably.
All right, brother.
Willie Bowen says, make sure that Tyrus doesn't follow me to Texas. I mean, I can't control what Tyrus does, right?
Won't be enough room for Jay and Tyrus in Texas. And that's just because of Tyrus.
Going back to Mike real quick, because Matthew Underwood put this, and I want to share it in the chat too. He told me his ailments last Tuesday when he rewatched Powerrr with me, and that he was going in on Wednesday. He texted me Thursday, and that was the last time I heard from him. It's very sad. Sal Win was when we connected. Chats would turn into 2-hour conversations, fast friends. He was a good guy. And, there was for the 75th, he was going to try to make it to St. Louis. His health kind of prevented him from getting out there. He thought maybe he would be able to get to Nashville. We were talking about even him, bunking in my room with me. And just nothing came up, nothing happened. And man, it makes me sad that it didn't. There was a few years ago, I was in Boston, not far from where Rob Allison lived, and I regret not just driving an hour or two to say hi, to meet him, to give him a handshake, give him a hug, and it bums me out. It really does. Mike was a good guy, and yeah, I'm not going to say anything more than that. James H. Jackson says it's all about Dave Dahl. We need a Dave Dahl interview.
No. Dave Dahl makes Tyrus look like the mixture of Kurt Angle, Daniel Bryan, and Nick Bockwinkel all together.
Our pal Dave Scooby says he's stuck in traffic and on his way back from DC. If you and DK have a chance, stop by Texas Live, right by Ranger Stadium. It's one of my company's properties.
Oh, really?
That might be a...
Well, if I drop your name, I never would have gone.
Hey, Dave Scooby, Are you working June 6th? I know it's a little bit in advance, but I have a request if you're free. You can come host with DKM and Jaden. Doll is the second coming of Bockwinkel. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody has ever said that.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
I don't think Dave Dahl is even the second coming of.
It's the second coming of that asteroid that killed the dinosaurs.
Oh, that's mean.
What? Do you remember how bad Giant Gonzalez was, Elegante was, when he showed up in WCW?
Yes. He makes Dave Dahl look like Bret Hart mixed with Kurt Hennig, mixed with Zack Sabre Jr.
He almost made me spit the water out.
The W?
Yeah, the W. Well, no, it's actually water today because I've been drinking. I was at I had a spa day with the wife, and so
spa day.
Yeah, I don't
Get
want
your mani-pedi done and the cucumbers on your eyes.
We were literally in like mineral spring water, and like there was geothermal like heated. It was really cool, and yeah. See, you guys have a co-host on June 6th now, Mr. Dave Scooby's. It's just been put on the calendar. Dave Scooby will make his return to the Alliance Guys podcast.
Did you ever talk to him about my idea?
No, but we'll hey, Dave Scooby, since you're here and you could hear. Oh, it's my daughter. She wants to say hi. Give me a hug. I need a hug.
Hi.
Hi.
I have type 1 diabetes.
You don't need to celebrate. You don't need to show over that.
Type 1 or type 2? I forget.
And besides, your dad's already told us 342 times.
Yeah.
Remember we did a fundraiser and we sold T-shirts and we donated that money to.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Do you like ham sandwiches?
Yeah, we should do that again this year.
Should we do it again this year?
Yeah, we should do it.
Okay,
again.
we'll work on a design.
Yay!
All right.
Do you like ham sandwiches?
Okay, bye-bye.
What did you say, Jane? I'm sorry.
Does she like ham sandwiches?
You know what? You know what she likes? Jersey Mike's. That girl.
Yeah, nobody in Jersey likes Jersey Mike's, but okay.
Really? It's damn, because we love it. We're like, it's great.
Jersey Mike's is kind of like Taco Bell to real Mexican food.
Okay, that's fair.
It's edible, you can eat it, but it's not the real thing.
Well, so like I don't get like I don't order like the Philly cheesesteak or anything like that. Like I just get a basic like turkey with bacon, right? Turkey, bacon, and cheese. We love it.
Would you mention trying something different?
Would I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Try some roast beef and turkey together. It's called an Audi.
Yeah, I've had that. Well, I've had it at Jersey Mike's, but yeah, I've had that.
I'm very much a fan of that combination with a couple of kinds of cheese. Usually I'll mix pepper jack and mozzarella with that. Sliced mozzarella.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, real quick. Dave Scooby, here's the pitch. This was from Jaden from last week. You, being the creative that you are, would interview bookers, right? And you would talk to them about their ideas. And the name is great. It's Sharpening the Pencil, right? That was it?
I think so.
Sharpening the Pencil. And I think that would be pretty cool because it would be an interview format. Plus, like, you could show off some of your fantasy booking ideas and see what the bookers think of those ideas.
Just heads up, bookers are kind of assholes.
Kinda.
Which kind of makes it an entertaining podcast.
That'd be funny. Rosville's in the house. Real quick, saying hi to everybody. James H. Jackson's here. Willie's here. Lou's here. Matthew's here.
Even though he's on the other side of the country, Tyrus is still here because he reaches to here.
Yeah. Luther says that's a money idea. I think it would be a fun idea. At the very least, maybe one episode, because once the other bookers hear about it, they'll be like, I don't want to go on that show. He told me I sucked. Then Luther says Jay in Carneyland is something I would watch. Jay in Carneyland. There's nothing exciting about me in Carneyland. That's Billy Corgan's world. Matthew Underwood says, "Oh, this YouTube money's paying for spa days." Actually, my wife paid for everything. That just means she used my credit card, but she paid for everything. No, she actually did. I was like, it's like, damn, that wasn't cheap. She goes, yeah, it's all right. I got it. You sure? Like, I can pay? No, I got it. If your wife says she's got it, don't.
She goes, I got it. Give me your card. I'll take care of it.
Or Cajun food outside of Louisiana. So you mean Popeyes isn't authentic? Because I love me some Popeyes.
We get a weird influx of Cajuns that move to New Jersey. So I don't think it's probably as good as when I was down in Louisiana. But compared to some places that call themselves Cajun, there is some good Cajun in New Jersey, surprisingly.
I took one of those polar plunges today into they had us go into a hot tub that was like a jacuzzi that was like 102, 103 degrees. So that was great. Loved it. And then you go into this ice cold. It's not ice. There was no ice in it, but a very, very cold jacuzzi. And it was probably like it said 50, but it felt so much colder than that. And I sat in there for about 2 minutes and then got out and went into another.
Was your voice higher?
No. But you know what, though? Like, you get so invigorated, and I felt really good afterwards, like stupid amount of good. Like, it's starting to come down. I'm coming down now. I'm feeling like shit again, but I felt really good for like a good hour or two. Highly recommend it.
I don't like cold. My goosebumps are actually uncomfortable.
James H. Jackson thought you were gonna tell me to try avocados with my sandwich.
Ew, no. Why would I want baby shit on a sandwich?
Willie Bowen says roast beef and mozzarella or provolone cheese sandwich. I mean, that sounds fantastic. I'd eat that all day.
Yeah.
Some reason roast beef and mozzarella goes extremely well together, which is why I get that with sliced mozzarella on that sandwich. And then the pepper jack or goes really well with the turkey because it adds some flavor and brings out.
Luthez wants to point out that Dave is the Absolute Alliance MVP. Yeah, man. So look, I did hear from Jeremy. He's doing okay. He's just working a lot of hours and unfortunately just hasn't had any time at all to do the Other Alliance Guys podcast. And I'm sure when things slow down, hopefully him and Dave come back to it and we'll be doing the show again because I loved it. I listen to it every Wednesday on the way home from work. Hopefully that's something that comes back together. If not, both of those guys have a spot here on this channel. I mean, anytime they want to do something, they both have access to our studio. And anytime either one of them want to do something, they have my blessing. But yeah, Dave Scooby is absolutely a vital part of this community. He's a vital part of the this channel. So as far as I know, he's not going anywhere until he tells me otherwise. He's still a part of this team. We're just looking for the right spot for him to be in, whether it's the Other
sharpening the pencil.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. That's an option, right? Everything's on the table. Nothing is off the table. Matthew Underwood says Popeyes isn't Cajun food. Luthez says Popeyes died when they removed the dirty rice from the menu. That dirty rice is pretty good.
Don't eat, whatever you do, don't eat any Popeyes around here. They're all horrible. They ruined Popeyes for me.
Do you know you want to hear something weird? So I've been to several different places in Mexico, right? I've been to Cabo San Lucas. I've been to Mexico City. I've been to Tijuana.
Domino's?
They all have Popeyes. They all have Little Caesars.
Was Little Caesars or Popeyes you had in Mexico?
I had Little Caesars. I was so hungry, and I think I got sick off of it. I think that's what it was because I never drank tap water or anything.
Have you been taking your greens?
I every day except for today. I didn't have a chance to. I still might today. I just haven't had a chance to do it yet.
What is your opinion?
Flavorful, good. I was very intimidated because it doesn't smell good and it looks like you're eating dirt, but it tasted great.
Yeah, the color isn't there.
Because last time I tried something like that, I was pretty sure I was drinking grass.
No, yeah, that was probably Amazing Grass. Well, they're the OG of greens, and they taste exactly like their name. Greens have definitely come a long way.
No, this was pretty good. And like I mixed it with a smoothie to start because I was a little worried. So it had like fruit and kale in it and stuff like that. It's fine. It's good. I was like, you know, I didn't taste any earthy thing in here. And so I the next day I had it by itself, nothing extra, and it was good. I'm wondering, and Jaden, help me out here. How would that, if I mix that with my protein, would I be doing anything that would like stop it from working correctly?
No, it just probably wouldn't taste that great. The protein, milky products and greens, there's too much acid in there that it probably wouldn't mix well.
Okay, because I'm thinking like my protein tastes like vanilla ice cream. My greens taste like berries. It'd be like a 50-50 bar.
Yeah, there's too much acidic in those greens that would probably counteract some of the things in there. But yeah, there's some good stuff. You could add if you ever start taking creatine, you could add your creatine to your greens.
That's something I'd consider.
And I highly recommend any kind of pico 2 or mushroom combination, just for their overall health benefits. Oh yeah, don't ever take them by itself. The consistency of those mushroom powders is like dust bunnies, but the health benefits are definitely worth it. Even if you can get it by the pill form, mushrooms are very good. The adaptogenics medicine in that is not medicine, but adaptogenic science in that shows a lot of positive benefits. And I'm a huge fan of adding mushrooms, even though I don't like the actual. I can eat some mushrooms, but when you cook, you lose it. But those powders are great. I have to actually check out that Royce interview. I've been meaning to do so.
Yeah, it dropped last night. We did it. Wow, can't talk anymore. Almost didn't happen last night too. This guy is very busy. As I was showing the Alliance guys off air, he's booked so much. He's going to Canada this weekend, or not this weekend. Next weekend, he's in Ontario this weekend, and guy is so busy. But he did take an hour to talk with me, which was great. Good interview. If you haven't checked it out, I hope you do. It's available on all streaming services or available on YouTube. Either way, I like it, and I thought it was a good interview. It's not edited. What you see on YouTube is the same thing that's on Spotify, so feel free to listen to it at either place. Willie Bowen says, I would love to share a jacuzzi with Allison Kay, Freya the Slaya, and Rekka Tahaka. That would be a very full jacuzzi there, Willie.
You could share one with Tyrus. It's called the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, my God.
Pacific. He wouldn't fit in the Atlantic.
There's too much land in the Atlantic. The Bermuda Triangle is just Mr. Tyrus sitting out in the middle of the ocean. It's a butthole.
They'll probably think the Titanic sank again.
That reminds me of a meme I saw the other day. Something about my child. Based on my childhood, I expected to have a lot more issues with the Bermuda Triangle.
Or quicksand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, quicksand and the Bermuda Triangle. I thought that'd be a much bigger part of my life.
And it's nothing. James H. Jackson is throwing out the title, Throw the Book at Him, for a Dave Scooby show. And that's not a bad idea either. So, Scoob, if you're still listening while you're driving, take some mental notes here. You're getting some gold here. Throw the book at him. I like that. And you could just go to whatever the hottest angle is right now in each of the wrestling promotions and then tell them how you do it.
I got a book I'd like to throw at some people.
Uh-oh.
My mom threw the Yellow Pages at me once.
Shit. What did you do?
Oh, my mom. She was a saint. I drove that woman nuts. I used to get her mad, and she would chase after me with a wiffle ball bat in the backyard, and I would just keep just out of reach to keep her swinging as she's trying to murder me with a wiffle ball bat. And one time I tripped, and she goes up to me and goes, "You okay?" And I go, "Yeah." And he starts beating the crap out of me with the wiffle ball bat. That's what you get, you prick.
That's what a mother does.
Hey, do you want to know what drives me nuts?
Okay, and then she hurts you.
Yeah.
You want to know what drives me nuts? A steering wheel in my pants.
How come that one's not on the buckets for rent?
Shh, we're not supposed to mix brands.
Hold on. Okay. So Jaden.
Yes.
Now that we've gotten rid of Jay, teach him to give me the sign into his account.
Yeah.
Anything exciting going on in the world of dog?
I know Dr. Zirconium has a interview. I'm not sure what to call it. He's going to talk with an organization that does charity for both elderly and younger about doing something with them on the 18th of May. So we're going to talk to them. That's when the little meeting is. And there was supposed to be a talk with the building, a little teeny tiny, not a tiny warehouse, but a warehouse in Glassboro. If logistics work out, I know you're talking about doing talking to them about doing some events quarterly again in Glassboro.
You said May 18th?
May 18th is the meeting, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, because man, that's a quick turnaround, man. That's only
That's
9
Friday.
days.
But not this Friday, but
next Friday.
Or next Saturday, actually. It's Crockett Cup.
I'm sorry, it's the 16th. Oh, crap. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Almost closed the page. It's May 16th.
Yeah, your little icon disappeared.
My what disappeared?
Jaden's.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you, but your graphic is gone.
Oh, no. But anyway, yeah.
You learned a valuable lesson, young man.
I can sign back out and come back in if you want. But yeah, the May 18th is the meeting to talk about the
a potential show.
Event. Yes.
Meetings to talk about shows are evil.
Shows are evil. Every other company runs shows. Dog runs events.
Matthew Underwood is pointing out that he was hoping that Dog would have been on that Twitter space last night with the indie guys. I think you're speaking of Gabe Spolowski's live from last night. I didn't watch it, but was it any good?
I don't know. Unfortunately, I had things I had to do, but unfortunately, life gets away from things. But and I know Dr. Zirconium, he's doing all his medical things.
I just didn't care.
F that guy. What do we need him for?
He could have been on the booker. He sharpened the pencil. He should be a guest.
He could. Okay.
David Marquez could be a guest.
Dave Marquez would be interesting. It's funny because I'm friends with Dave. I'm not speaking from a bad spot. Dave really doesn't. He doesn't really book per se. I mean, he has people on staff that write the show. So, I mean, he has input, but he's not the one that's writing the show. It's other people. And it's been that way for a long time. I think the last time he was really booking was before Pierce won the world's heavyweight title. Because he's always had a staff of writers, not a staff, but some writers on the team. So
if I ever booked, I'd be like Dusty. Let me book the main event and two largest angles and then get me JJ Dillon.
There you go. That seems like that's the most important thing anyways. I'm not trying to sound rude here, but let's be honest, when we're talking about wrestling the shows and what's drawing and what's not drawing, I think a lot of the success that the WWE had in recent weeks was based on recent months, recent years, was based on this bloodline storyline. And they built up a few interesting stories to go with it, but let's be honest, people were going to WrestleMania because they wanted to see Roman and Cody. That's what they bought tickets for before even an event was announced. It was because they wanted to see Roman and Cody, right? They wanted to see the end of that story.
And Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns had a lot of influence on bloodline storylines.
Well, and we talk about pay-per-view numbers, right? We're talking about pay-per-view selling. What did I hear recently, and maybe you guys can confirm this, but did I hear this correctly that AEW lost their international pay-per-view international pay-per-view supplier, the producer, whatever?
They lost the zone, and I also think they lost another international market from there.
VIX or something like that.
Yeah, which is to Mexico, if I'm right.
Yeah, VIX is kind of like the
Central South America, Mexico. They didn't have incredibly large extended, but they kind of covered where some other places didn't.
Yeah, I always thought they covered the chest because it's a vapor rub.
Oh my God. No, VIX is actually really popular in Mexico. It is like one of the more premium streaming services. And I would kind of compare it to like HBO Max or Max here in the States. Like it's pretty big. So them being on that service was kind of a big deal for them. But evidently with them leaving VIX, that takes them away from a large.
I don't think they left VIX.
Or
it sounds like both DAZN and VIX ended their multi-year deal 1 year in.
So
they're going the NWA route with no international people to see it. Unfortunately, they're not doing it for the same reason.
Well, and then with this on the backs of, TNA and their last pay-per-view had some very diminished numbers as well. We know that the last NWA pay-per-view didn't do all that swimmingly well either. Is the pay-per-view model just a dead model, or is it just the right company needs to come along and use it the right way? You go first, Jaden.
Who goes first? Me?
You go first, Jaden.
I think it's financial. Right now, nobody has spare cash. When the cash is flowing, people have disposable income to spend on that stuff. And right now, there's just none out there. Plus, everybody thinks about, it's great to have multiple places for these wrestlers to wrestle. But we need 3 strong places for these people to wrestle, and there's only 1 strong. It'd be nice if we had 3 strong and have talent to be able to go different places and have just have good products all the way around to push each other. Number 3 can still be very profitable and successful and just still be the number 3 company. Look at the AWA till later in the AWA's hierarchy. In fact, there was a time where AWA might have even been number 2. But you need 3 strong, and the problem is there's so many people now competing for bucks. I don't mean young bucks either.
Old bucks.
There's just so many people competing for those dollar bills, and there's not enough money to go around right now. The fans that aren't WWE fans are very loyal fans, but they're not very wealthy fans. And there's only so much money that can go around. And now with WWE actually being exciting again, it's taking a lot of that interest from those smaller promotions away. And a lot of talent, too.
Well, I'm 100% certain that that's part of what's happening with AEW and the diminished returns on their TV numbers. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people think, but I feel like that so many people are now invigorated with what the WWE is doing with the Bloodline, with Damian Priest, with obviously the Cody and Gunther. Like, they don't really need to change the channel for good wrestling. When AEW debuted, I would make the point that WWE was pretty shitty at the time, but I feel like they've really stepped up not only their storytelling, but just actual wrestling as well. DK, what are your thoughts on the pay-per-view situation? And we're seeing a diminished returns on pay-per-views.
Well, of course, WWE changed it when they first did their streaming service. Yeah. Because now you could get everything for $10 a month. And you could literally get it for a month and then cancel. If you just wanted to watch the Big Four, you didn't have to pay a full month. So you're basically getting, the biggest pay-per-views out there for $10. And smart TVs came out and the apps came out. So now you didn't have to watch it on your computer. You can watch it on your 80-inch ultra 8K high definition TV.
Oh, could you imagine Tyrus in 8K? Oh,
no.
What satellite did they use to shoot him?
Unless you're just trying to weigh one of his hands.
Cameraman, zoom out. Jesus.
But
that's how they use the Hubble telescope.
I do think in many ways, and this has to do with streaming services in general, I've dumped almost everything but Amazon Prime and one Amazon Prime channel.
What about Disney Plus? No?
Nope.
Wow.
I only got Disney Plus because it was a bundle that included ESPN and I thought to myself, I can watch the Star Wars stuff here. And you know what? I haven't really watched much Star Wars stuff.
What about Max? All the DC content. You love DC.
Max, I've tried to keep, but they pissed me off, and so now I've dumped them just because I'm mad at them. I will probably add them back again sometime, but I don't know when. You know, it's just what I find is you just don't watch that many streaming services. I was about to dump Peacock. The only reason I still have Peacock is because they said, because I was on like the $5 one.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, for $1, we'll give you the top level for 6 months. And then you can keep this at $5 a month. And I go, well, I'll keep it for now.
Yeah.
And it's like, but yeah, that was it. Nobody else offered me a good deal to stay. I thought about just downgrading Netflix, but like Netflix, you couldn't get 4K if you downgraded. And it was just like, you know, that's pretty standard now. And so to say I got to pay extra to get your 4K stuff, nah, forget it.
It's interesting, right? So like, I cut the cable many, many years ago, but for a short time I did have YouTube TV. And I thought YouTube TV was great because they had like a digital DVR, like you could record shows. Basically, you had access to watch any of the shows anytime you wanted to. And so like you could record Raw, you could record SmackDown, hell, you could record AEW. And the reason why I canceled it is because they lost their deal with out here in California and some of the other markets. They lost their deal with Bally's. And would no longer show baseball games. So when that happened, I decided I'm done with that too. And my wife pays for Amazon Prime because she likes the 2-day free shipping, and we do a lot of ordering from Amazon. I've kept Netflix because over the years, there's been always something on Netflix that I've wanted to watch. We have little ones, so Disney is a must. I mean, we watch Disney more than anything else in this house. Plus, it's cool for me because I do enjoy the Star Wars. I do enjoy Marvel, and I consume that stuff at a very high rate. We have HBO Max. I'm paying for it. I don't even watch it. We have Paramount. My wife's paying for that. We don't even watch it. And well, the last one is Peacock. And you think we would have that for the WWE? We actually watch more Office on that than anything else. So it's interesting.
Yeah, well, I was finding that now I have a few weird ones, and they're annual. And so, like, I do True Royalty because I can pay like $50 annually.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, they got some documentaries and a bi-weekly show that I like to watch. And it's like, oh, well, I'm willing to do that. And it's, but like last time my Flow Wrestling came up for renewal, I didn't. And
that's amateur wrestling, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
That was Florida wrestling.
And it's just, it's one of those things where there's only, like we talk about, there's only so much time of the day. And I was finding that I was really not watching a lot of stuff I had. Some of them are available as Prime channels, and I got Prime more for the 2-day shipping, 2-day free shipping than I did anything else. You know, the videos are just kind of like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I lost my mind there for a second.
Sorry.
But the point was, you don't really watch as much as you think you do. And everything's competition for money. I've retired. I'm not bringing in the same amount of money. I'm trying to start 2 businesses. That costs money, you know. And
those haircuts aren't cheap either.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, it costs about $60 to get hair and a beard like this. So, plus tip.
You're right. So I guess that begs a question.
And so with her booty, I tip well.
What did you just say?
I said with her booty, I tip well.
So you can fit in there. I told you I was getting those inappropriate jokes in today.
I can't let Jaden have all the fun. What you think I pay for my hair because I want a haircut?
All right, so is that okay? So
It's
I
a
have
joke,
a great
people. It's a joke.
I have a great barber. I love her. She's great. Like, she makes my beard look good. She makes the hair look good. Although I didn't comb it today. And I pay a big tip too, but not because she's pretty or anything. It's just because she does a good job. You know how hard it is to cut this beard, this Irish hair, man. It grows in thick.
You know, I knew a rabbi who did circumcisions for free. He only took tips.
Oh no. James H. Jackson says, I no longer have streaming services you have to pay for, and I have a $300 roof over the air antenna, and that's what I use now. I canceled Honor Club, etc., etc. Sean Mega says, I wish I had a female barber. You should get one. Their choice.
There are plenty of places that offer them.
Sports Clips, I think, is exclusive. I think Sports Clips is basically Hooters for haircuts, right?
It is, but there are plenty of businesses that are catered towards gentlemen.
That's where I go. It's called the men's barber shop. But whenever I walk in there, you know what they ask me? You want water? You want a beer?
Yes.
Completely free. I don't have to pay for the beer. They hand me if I want one, a Michelob Ultra. Here we go.
So you got water then?
Yeah. I didn't say Bud Light, dude. I said a Michelob Ultra.
Yeah, so you got water then.
Oh, got water. But anyway.
Fancy bottle of water.
There are, around here, there's for the more
good for you, Lou.
More upper class, there's the what do they call it?
Salon?
Yeah, I can't remember what the boardroom. They call it the boardroom.
Oh, I love it.
That's meant more for
executives.
And they're pricing. And then there's also, like, just for men, there's a place called the Garage.
I like that too. That's a great name.
And it's but I mean, like, they're all dressed nicely at the boardroom, and they're all dressed normal at the Garage and everything. They're not there for TNA. But yeah, I mean, there are places that offer that. And honestly, I cut my own hair because it's free.
A gentleman's club, and I haven't been to one of those in like 20 years. There's a gentleman's club that's called the Library, and I always thought that was the best name ever because hey wife, I'm going to go to the library. I'll see you later.
In Philadelphia, there's a Library 4.
There's 4 of them.
I don't know if it's a franchise or not, but yeah, IV too. They get all fancy with the Roman numerals.
I'm sure there's IVs there too. Other kind of needles.
Maybe HIV.
Oh my God!
Did you see that? I may not have sent it to you guys. I saw this video of a comedian. He was talking about going to like this one bar, and like one of the guys with him passed out, and they literally had like a room down the basement where they would give these people who drank too much IVs. And
did you send that to me? Did I send that to you, DK?
I don't know. I think I sent it out. I remember seeing it. It's like nurses and all, and it's just like, no, wait a minute, you did send that one to me. I'm looking at it now, and it's just like, God, wouldn't that be an awesome place?
It gets you right back at the bar. It's genius. You get yourself a little IV and you get yourself all set. You can sleep it off a little bit, go right back.
In Vegas, there is an IV service for every, like, it's literally they show up in an ambulance, like a decommissioned ambulance, and they just load you up with the vitamins to kind of cure the hangover so you can go right back out and start drinking again. I think it's like $40. And I've never used it, but I've always thought, man, if I was like, the old Jay back when I was a young man, I definitely would have taken advantage of that. Willie Bowen said, is the library pretty stacked? I've never been. But
So you claim.
No, I look, I would own it. I haven't been to a strip club, but since before I met my wife. When we were dating, I hadn't gone to a strip club before then.
Well, if I can be completely honest, I have never been to a strip club.
Never?
Never.
I've been to wrestling events at strip clubs.
The Cashmere.
Yeah.
Come on down. Kitty's on stage with Betty Boop coming up next. Dave Scooby says his boss used to own a bar called The Office. We actually had one of those when I lived in Ontario, California, and I always thought that was a clever name for a bar too. Like, hey, I'm just gonna go down to The Office. Wife, don't follow up on that.
Don't follow up on what office? Just
yeah. Willie says there's a gentleman's club in his town called the Booby Trap. That's a good name. All right. Well, with all that being said, we were talking about pay-per-views specifically because TNA's had a lower buy rates with their pay-per-views as of late. And it's kind of interesting because all the talk is that TNA is back, and even after Scott D'Amore's left, I still feel that energy is there. That a lot of people are more excited to watch TNA wrestling now than they were even just a few years ago. Do you think that the sport of wrestling has evolved beyond pay-per-views, or do you think, because look, the WWE stopped doing it, the NWA stopped doing it, some of the smaller promotions are now part of Triller's like package. Is the demand to have a pay-per-view going extinct, or is it the wrestling just not entertaining enough to pay for it?
I'm going to go with both.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm kind of going that way too. I mean, pay-per-view is still big in boxing. It's still.
Oh, we lost you, DK.
As you clicked him right off.
I did not click him off.
I heard a click. He disappeared.
I was clicking off Lou's comment.
Well,
I see DK.
There's big pay-per-view trying to silence DK there and paying Jay to take him off that air. Next thing you know, we're sponsored by a pay-per-view company.
It's like, hey, presented by Triller. DK, I will be seeing DK next week, so I'm sure he'll have receipts for me.
He clicked you off, DK.
How are you?
Anyhow, well, before I was so rudely interrupted.
Ouch.
Yeah, I just don't. I guess my point before we went off on that big tangent was that there's just so much money.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, boxing pay-per-views are like $90 now. And
when was the last time you ordered a boxing pay-per-view?
Last time I ordered a boxing pay-per-view.
Mike Tyson.
Tyson Fury Wilder 3.
Oh, okay. So somewhat recent.
Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. Eargate.
Oh.
Luckily, I have a friend throwing a party for that one, so I didn't have to pay for it.
I don't think I've ever paid for a boxing pay-per-view. I know I've watched them. My family had them, but I've never went out and said, I'm going to get this boxing pay-per-view. And back in the day, and the statute of limitations is up, so I'm sure I can talk about this without getting in trouble. But I used to have a chipped DirecTV box, and I was able to see everything, which was the bane of my existence because I watched every single UFC that ever existed because I would go back and replay them, and I'd get to watch the old AWA classics because those were available on pay-per-view. And yeah,
I'm trying to think of when was the last time I watched a UFC pay-per-view.
When was the last time you watched a UFC pay-per-view?
Paid for it or watched it?
Both.
Watched it, a couple of them on a channel that I won't mention.
Yeah, don't say anything that'll get us in trouble. That's my job.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't remember. It may have been. It was probably when John Jones won the heavyweight title. And that was kind of enough to make me go, why do I get these pay-per-views?
Yeah, see, I missed that because there was a day I watched everything MMA. I watched the Showtime MMA. I watched the all the things that the UFC ended up buying. I watched UFC, Strike Force. I watched it all.
King of Cage is coming back. They're doing a show at the San Manuel baseball field. That's where the Angels minor league A affiliate team plays. They're doing a MMA fight on a minor league baseball field, and that's the same week. I think I'm in Dallas, but yeah, missing that one too. And James points this out. I think it's interesting, and this is something that we should take note of too. I think that it does affect pay-per-views and stuff. Is like you have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, plus main event, NXT Next Level, with close to 8 hours of wrestling a week. If you can find space for all the matches and stuff in that many hours, and that's just WWE. He's only talking 32 hours of WWE programming. That's not to say all the shows that are on AEW, the NWA, the United Wrestling Network, Memphis, and any other wrestling promotion that you make part of your viewing habits, let alone New Japan, All Japan, CMLL, AAA. There's so much content out there that, you can watch wrestling without having to pay for it.
Yeah, but see, I'm going to say that's an excuse because if everybody remembers in the 90s, you had 3 hours of Nitro, 2 hours of Raw, 3 hours of Thunder, 2 hours of SmackDown, whatever it was on Sunday Night Heat. Then you had the 2 syndicated shows on WWE. Then you had Worldwide on WCW, and then you had WCW Saturday Night, and then you had ECW, the syndicated show, and then you had ECW on TNN, and you also had every day in our town and close where I live in Philly used to have a station that had every single night was a different wrestling company. And there was also I would get my stuff from All Japan still in those days. So I watched everything, and I made sure I watched everything, and I wanted to watch everything. Before that, in the 80s, there was 23 and a half hours of first-run wrestling on every week for free that you could watch all first run between all the wrestling promotions in where I lived. And I made sure I watched every single one of those 23 and 1/2 hours. The only thing I didn't watch was Glow, and I only watched it because it was on the same time as the NWA Saturday Night Show.
Well, and I think some of it also is how diverse your interests are. I mean, I watch boxing. There's the UFC something almost every week. There's, keep up with my royalty site. I keep up with world news. Spend a lot of time polishing belts.
That's not a euphemism, folks. He really does polish belts.
So I'll mute.
Because he's leaving.
Oh. No, someone's at my door. Hold on.
We don't see DK, the big pay-per-view finally got him.
Yeah. Oh no, he's still here. Was that big pay-per-view at your door?
No, it was a dog.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently he was standing, his tail was wagging and hitting the door.
My sister and her Commonwealth husband used to have a pit bull named Thor, and his tail would, when it hit you, feel like you got hit with a baseball bat. He would actually break those thin doors if you hit him hard enough or hit him long enough with his tail. His tail was so strong. It would waggle his butt. He wouldn't wag his tail would wag his butt.
So the other thing we were going to talk about tonight was
we were going to talk about more.
Yeah, we were going to talk about Backlash. Now, I'll be the first to admit I did not watch Backlash.
I always liked Bob Backlash. I never thought he got the credit he deserves.
That's Bob Backwash. But DK did, and I will say this: I do think it's pretty cool that for the first time, and I think this is the first time. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. 2 former NWA World Heavyweight Champions battled for the WWE Undisputed Championship, and I can't think of another time where we saw that.
Well, there's only been 4 people to hold the NWA and WWE Championship. Buddy Rogers, Ric Flair, AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes. So we've never had an opportunity until now.
Well, I mean, but challenge for, right? Like if, for example, had Lex Luger challenged Ric Flair for the 10 pounds of gold, or excuse me, for the WWE Championship, which that title match could have happened. They were both in the WWF at the same time. They were just in different longitudes, latitudes.
But technically, Luger was never NWA champion.
Oh, fair point. Good point.
Did Ric Flair wrestle the Dragon? They were both around the same time in the WWF, right?
No, he never
did wrestle Kerry Von Erich in the WWF. I remember seeing that match.
But was it for the title?
But not for the title.
I think it was.
No, they were in the, what was it called?
Survivor Series?
Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble?
They were in the Rumble too, but I remember it was one of those matches Flair wrestled before, like it was one of those either on primetime or one of those specials they used to do before the big 4 pay-per-views.
If they did, it was before Flair held the actual title.
So according to Cage Match, the only time Ric Flair wrestled Kerry Von Erich was not ever in a WWE ring. And the last time they faced off against each other was June 21st, 1985.
Yeah. Well, they were in the Royal Rumble together, and they did face off together.
Huh.
And so, yeah, but most of the face-off. So I do think this is the first time that we had 2 former NWA champions facing off for WWE for the WWE title. And interestingly, AJ Styles defended his NWA title against Dusty Rhodes.
Yes.
And challenged Cody Rhodes for the WWE title.
Yes.
So,
trying to think of Ron Killings ever face AJ Styles for the.
Oh, and hold on. The thing with Cody and AJ, they were both, not only were they both former NWA champions, but AJ had also held both the NWA and WWE title. And so I think that's why there was only 4 people.
So in the 20-man Battle Royal, the Battle Royal at Albert Hall in London, London, UK, Bulldog defeats Animal and Brian Knobbs and Earthquake and Hawk and Hercules and Jerry Saggs and Jim Duggan and Marty Jannetty and Paul Roma, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, Shawn Michaels, the Barbarian, the Big Boss Man, the Mountie, the Texas Tornado, the Undertaker, Tito Santana, and Typhoon.
It's a lot of teeth.
You know what? So here's where so Cage Match says that Ric Flair they treat Texas Tornado differently from Kerry Von Erich. So when you type in Kerry Von Erich, Texas Tornado doesn't show up. So he did wrestle Kerry Von Erich quite a few times, whether it be in Spain, England, Michigan, Maryland, Pennsylvania. He did face Texas Tornado quite a few times, but not as champion. As champion,
neither one of his reigns was long.
Yeah.
No.
In fact, his second reign was very short.
He defeated Hogan by countout. He defeated Hogan defeated Flair by countout. Huh. Hogan. These are okay. Yeah.
Flair did some top challengers though. I've seen him wrestle against Tito Santana in the WWF. I've seen him wrestle against Sergeant Slaughter in the WWF, Randy Savage in the WWF, Roddy Piper in the WWF.
But none of those guys are former NWA World Champions.
Unofficially, Slaughter was.
Unofficially, a lot of people were.
Yeah, that is true.
Unofficially. Remember when Greg Gagner tried to make Hulk Hogan a former AWA World Champion?
Yes. Hulk Hogan still tries to make himself a former AWA champion.
Does he really? Like, I get the idea. Like, okay, you try to make yourself look good, but like, honestly, you don't need to put the AWA title on yourself to look good. You held the best title at the best times. You were the WWF champion when the hotbed of the 80s. You were WCW champion when that brand started growing. You were part of the biggest angle in pro wrestling in the late 90s with the whole NWO thing. It's like, you did enough, man. You're good. You're good.
But yeah, let's go back to Backlash.
Backlash. So you had, and sorry, Willie, I know you hate the WWE. I get it, but it does involve two former NWA World Champions. So we did tie it back to the brand that we talk about. But we had AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes in the ring for the WWE Undisputed Championship.
I mean, just in general, you got to be open. I mean, I get mad at people that love anything the NWA does just because it's the NWA.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, and I get mad at people that love anything AEW does because it's AEW, or anything WWE does because it's WWE.
Yeah.
You couldn't just love something because of X or Y. By the same token, you shouldn't just hate anything. I mean, you can insult Hogan all you want. There's no Steve Austin. There's no Rock. There's no Roman Reigns. There's no any of this without Hulk Hogan. So, and, those of us who really lived through that era, and I was never a big WWF fan, so I always preferred the NWA. But, I watched it some.
Yeah.
And, they were the ones that were selling out. And, we can pick at their numbers all we want. Most people who pick at their numbers, we don't even know, they don't even understand where the numbers come from or why all these lesser numbers start going in the thing. It's just, a match is either good or a match is bad. A show is either good or a show is bad. And lots of things can influence it. And so we're talking about Backlash. Backlash took place in Lyon, France. And the French crowd, who doesn't get to see this on a regular basis, except on TV, were over the top, insane, loving everything. And there are only, what were there, like 5 or 6 matches?
Five, I think, right? 2 women's, 3 men's.
That sounds right. And so they all had plenty of time. They all got a chance to get going. And this is important because we're going to talk about it later. And I don't know that any of them were great, but all of them were good.
The women's tag was okay.
Well, I mean, there was some greenness in there, obviously, but still, the crowd helps you pass that.
Yes, it really did. It made it a lot easier.
When the crowd is, cheering and counting 1, 2, sacre bleu, and everything. I mean, shoot, I even enjoyed Jey Uso versus Damian Priest.
Damian Priest, by the way, is the first ever World Heavyweight Champion in WWE from New Jersey.
Interesting.
It's really easy to say they've only had 4 champions, but.
By the way, real quick, also Cody and AJ were the only members of the Bullet Club to face each other for the World's Heavyweight Championship.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's true or not. I just thought, did Carl
I
Anderson
don't know how many Bullet Club members have been there.
Did Carl Anderson get a shot at AJ as champion?
I don't think so. The next one will probably be Tama Tonga.
You think so?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, the crowd really, an into it, hot crowd helped a show that had pretty good matches. And if you liked old style wrestling, if you were a fan of wrestling back in the day, you would have enjoyed Cody versus AJ. Yes, it was a modern twist on it, but the basics of it were very old school. And I really enjoyed the match. Again, more than I thought I would. And no, I never believed AJ was going to win. I never believed that was a chance. But you sat there and you could get into it, and there was storytelling, and it sped up and it slowed down, and it did what it needed to do. And again, a hot crowd never hurts. And so I think we see this under Triple H, when Triple H did the NXT takeovers, he only did 4 matches.
Sometimes 5, but usually, yeah.
Yeah, occasionally 5, but most of them were 4. And that's what you kind of have. What you have with this is Triple H doesn't do the 15 match card, unlike certain promotions, and you can get better matches because of it.
Here's a secret with wrestling too. The object is to not give them everything and blow your load. The object is to give them just enough to make them come back and want to see more of it.
Al Snow, who I watched several videos of him doing, training sessions and seminars and stuff like that. Noob says you're wrong.
Yeah, see, he's from New York, but he's from New Jersey. He lives in New Jersey longer than he lives in New York.
Okay. So
I thought he was from Puerto Rico. You're both blowing my mind here.
Well, that's like saying you're from Cuba by being from Miami.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. What were we talking about? Were we talking about
Al Snow.
Al Snow.
Stop distracting him, please.
What?
Telling Jay, stop distracting you.
Yes, okay. Stop distracting me. But I've seen like Al Snow seminars and stuff like that. And he always said, you never want your biggest pop to be when you're coming out. And for those that maybe have not known, but when we're talking about popping the crowd, we're talking about what happens when a man reaches climax.
I was wondering how you were going to get to that one.
I had to think for a while. And so that shouldn't get us demonetized there. And so, Al Snow would always say, he goes, if you get a huge pop on your way out to the ring, he goes, just turn around, go back in, and eat a sandwich. He goes, because they're done.
Yeah.
The crowd's done. And, that's the idea. You gotta go with it. They gotta feed your emotions. And you gotta have time, and you gotta have a story, and you gotta have reasons. And again, we'll talk about some of this as it comes up again later. Now, Jaden, what are your thoughts on that specifically?
All you really need is a tantric crowd, and then you should be all right.
All you need
what?
is what?
A tantric crowd. You guys apparently never heard Sting talk, and I don't mean the wrestler.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about now. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I still don't. Well, one, I can't hear, so.
I'll explain it to you when you get old enough, BK, or at least in the Instagram chats.
Okay.
But yeah, honestly though, it's other than the Road Warriors and probably maybe the Rock and Roll Express, but they continuously got energy throughout the entire match anyway. But their pops coming out were generally the biggest for their match. But either way, like they had energy going through the whole damn thing. You really do need that, and that's where this crowd really does come in. All right, I've been to many ECW events. Looking back at it now, ECW wasn't great wrestling, but it was an atmosphere. It was a revolution. It was an energy. It was a crowd. It was everything in that. they truly made ECW events better, especially when you're being there, because it does not translate half as well on TV, as hard as it is to believe in some of the stuff you've seen. But that's what it is. This we'll look back and watch those matches. Another example: The Rock versus Hulk Hogan wasn't actually a good match, but boy was it electric. Even Hogan and Andre wasn't a good match, but boy was it electric. And that's what matters, is those goosebumps, that electricity running through you, that red, white, and blue running through your veins. You needed all of that to really, really make something special.
Right, and that's ultimately what matters. That's what I said. I go, WrestleMania 3, the best match may have been Steamboat and Savage. The match that sold tickets was Andre and Hogan. So however many people they had there, they were there to see Andre and Hogan.
Okay. So what's next, Jay?
I can't hear you, Jay.
Turn his mic off. Okay.
Well, I guess what he's saying is we need to come up with the next thing. So, Jaden.
I don't do a very good Marcel Marceau impersonation.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Hey, is it Verizon now, or is it Sprint? Actually, it's not Sprint anymore because they're bought by T-Mobile.
Right.
Okay. Well, I guess the next thing that we're supposed to be talking about is, I guess we're supposed to talk about Powerrr.
Oh man.
Well, we could talk about not the pay-per-view, the Signature Live event, except for we don't know anything about it.
Apparently, EC3 is going to be there. I saw that graphic.
Yeah, EC3 will be there. We know that he'll be defending the title against Sam Adonis.
I think the champions are going to be there, but we don't know in what role.
No, or what capacity. Okay, so as I pull this up, so what we know let's just go down the NWA stuff that's happening this week. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Can you?
It'll give you a minute just to take a break if you need to. Of course, one thing that I really enjoy that the NWA is starting to do is release these graphics that have upcoming events for the family of the NWA promotions that are coming up. So you can see, of course, the Crockett Cup coming up on May 18th. Before we get to the Crockett Cup, you go to Cleveland, Ohio. It's called For the Fame. They're doing their event on May the 11th. We know that NWA Joe Kazana Promotions has their event Showdown at Sunbright. That's happening tomorrow night, actually. And you're getting a schedule way ahead of time, so you know the upcoming events and how to follow the NWA. I think this is brilliant. This is something that they should have done as soon as the territories started to become a thing. So with that being said, the one thing that's missing from this flyer, though, is, of course, that they're heading to Puerto Rico this weekend, where it's going to be called Honor versus Traición, which I guess that's like it's not tradition, it's like treachery, like bad stuff. And so World Wrestling Council, that's the promotion that's owned by the Colon family, the same Carlitos from the WWE. They're calling themselves El Último Territorio, which means the final territory, the last territory. They're holding that event also on the 11th, and it's going to feature the stars of the NWA, the new national champion, Tom Latimer, the women's world champion, Kenzie Page, not Alex Taylor, but Kerry Morton and Silas Mason of the Southern Six, Brian Idol, who is currently the World Wrestling Council television champion, Natalia Markova, and Homicide. And I'm not sure how they're going to play that up, but that's an event that's happening this Friday. I think we talked a little bit about that last week, Jaden. What are your thoughts on a Puerto Rico NWA showdown?
I hope Invader is not there.
Oh, shit.
But I think it's a good thing. WWC has been around for a very long time. They are a true territory, even if they're only running in Puerto Rico. It's a very large place to run.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for the NWA, especially people like. I worry about Silas because Puerto Rican fans like to throw batteries.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, they'll probably bounce off of Markova's airbags. But
oh, shit.
But yeah, I think other than that, I worry more about Silas than anything else. And I didn't know that Latimer is the national champion again. I know I've been tough on him, but for some reason I've actually started to lighten up a little bit on him. And it's nice now. He's the TV champion. He was a tag team champion. He's the national champion. DK says he refuses to give that belt up.
Yeah, this was they did the that was part of Powerrr, and again we'll talk about that match in a little bit. But this was Tom Latimer, who gave up the TV title to challenge for EC3's World Heavyweight title, and then kind of like took a back seat to everything else that was going on in the NWA. Kind of got lost in the shuffle for a minute. So him winning the national championship has solidified him as a genuine triple crown of the NWA, having held the tag titles, the national title, the TV title. And the only thing that's stopping him from becoming a Grand Slam like Jack Stain is EC3. They haven't made any overtures to that matchup becoming a reality, but I imagine that's something at some point will happen. But in the meantime, so Tom is your national champion, and although we know these tapings are from about a month and a half ago, he already cut a promo that the Puerto Rico is using, where he has the national championship around his waist and is, decreeing that he will be defending that title in Puerto Rico. So it's interesting if that comes, if he actually gets a chance to defend the title in Puerto Rico. Still part of the nation, so it's still should be a sanctioned match because it's still part of the U.S. But yeah, I'm glad to see the belt back on him. Matthew Underwood said, "Well, what's next for Thrillbilly storyline wise?" We'll try to figure that out as we talk about Powerrr. And then he also asked Royce versus Tom for the Natty, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. But if you heard, Royce Isaacs on the interview yesterday, there's been zero dialogue between him and Billy Corgan since he left the NWA. And although there's no bad blood, he's concentrating on what he's doing now with Jarrell Nelson as the West Coast Wrecking Crew. So I don't think you'll see them in the NWA anytime soon. But as I'm saying this, watch him show up at the Crockett Cup in next week. Wouldn't be shocked. And then of course, we mentioned it again last week, but we'll talk about it again. EC3's got his a 6-man tag on May the 11th. He'll be teaming with Richard Holiday and Ashton Day against Carson Drake and the Slime Balls. They will also be crowning their new Exodus Midwest champion in either Cal Hero or Dante Casanova. There's a few other matches too. Again, this is the cool thing about having these territories with the NWA. There's a lot of, I guess the word I'm looking for is there's a lot more activity going on. And that brings us to this week's episode of Powerrr.
No.
Now, Jaden, I know that you didn't watch this week's episode of Powerrr. So when we go to you, just give us your hot take on what you're hearing us talk about. Roswell, real quick in the chat, says EC3 is standing next to the future world champion Holiday. That's you, maybe.
Why are they not using him? He's a free agent. He's not signed anywhere.
I honestly, going back to that, and I'll throw the graphic back up here. I honestly think this is the beginning of a story that they might be telling. Richard Holiday's coming into this show with no storyline. There's no connection. There's no reason for him to be teaming with Ashton Day and EC3. Now, Ashton Day is a former protege of EC3 and actually challenged for the 10 pounds of gold. But Richard Holiday has no dog in this hunt. He's got no beef with Carson Drake or the Slime Balls. So I honestly think that it's something that they might be building up to. And I think that would be great if they did,
Who's the promoter of that promotion again?
That is EC3's promotion, so I assume.
Yeah, so what he probably is setting himself up something, because if you're going to milk the NWA for everything it's worth, as a promoter and as a champion, getting yourself matches that might not necessarily be seen on NWA will get you over as a champion even more so, and get some big wins is a good idea.
Well, so let's real quick. Do you mind if I run down who EC3's defended the 10 pounds of gold against?
I would be angered if you did not.
$20.
How much?
$20.
All right, put it.
DK's going to give you $20 to do it. That's pretty good.
So, back in April, he defended the title in the UK against Drew Marshall. He defended it in Indianapolis against Carson Drake. That's one of his proteges that works at Exodus Pro. He defended the title against Steve Fender at the Night of Champions with World League Wrestling. He defended against Ron Mathis in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. The match aired yesterday, but defended against Silas Mason back in March. In California. Oh, by the way, he's coming to California too, and I'm very miffed I'm not going to be at that event. He defended against Drake Frost in Northern California. He defended against Luke Curtis in Ohio Valley. He defended against John McChesney in Pennsylvania, Erie. He defended against the Boar in Norfolk, Virginia. He beat Matt Cardona at the TV tapings of Fort Lauderdale. He defeated Cha Cha Charlie in Kissimmee, Florida. He defeated Matt Cardona at the Waukesha County Expo in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He defeated Fodder at Exodus Pro. He defeated Fodder at AML. No results about who won between him and Motter. He defeated Jack Stain in the Return to Robarts. He defeated Talus at the TV tapings. He defeated Tom Latimer at Samhain. Defeated Pac Buck in Rahway, New Jersey. Defeated Crowbar at Carlstadt, New Jersey. Defeated Delson Alexander in Buffalo, New York. Defeated Jay Bradley in Nashville, Tennessee. So he has over 22 title defenses as world's heavyweight champion. He even had one in Utah that's not listed, and I'm sure he's had a few more. But yeah, I mean, this is a question that I get asked every week on Power, like who's next for EC3, and the answer is, who has any clue? Nobody in the NWA has been built up to be a viable contender to challenge for the 10 pounds of gold. Silas Mason, and we'll get into the match in just a little bit. You know, they made him strong in that match, but still, like, what, they have not put a good enough build for anybody to take the belt off of EC3 to be a serious contender. DK, you're rubbing your head. Is that out of frustration?
Yes.
Was it something I said?
No, it was thinking about today's episode of Power.
Roswell said that's an ongoing issue going back to Aldis. And I'm going to say that's not necessarily true because, you know, Tim Storm had Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis, it took a while, but Nick Aldis had
Trevor Murdoch and Cody Rhodes.
Trevor Murdoch. Well, yeah, both. Yes. And to a lesser extent, even the villain, you know. And then Trevor Murdoch, you know, he kind of had Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona got hurt. They kind of just pushed Tyrus in that mix, and it was Tyrus who was kind of chasing Trevor Murdoch, right? And then when Tyrus won the belt, they didn't really do a good job of putting a viable candidate to build off of. They just kind of put EC3 into the mix without a real good build for it, you know, dropping the title so that he could challenge. And then Roswell said, Trevor, the champ, no one cared, carried the belt. Oh, Roswell.
See, when he came off, here's the thing. Trevor came off great with the Aldis feud, but they didn't have any follow-up. And at the time, his match with his new tag team partner, his current tag team partner, Mike Knox, you know, that wasn't very well received. And you know, I never got a chance to truly do anything, I think, as champion. And I think that hurt him in the long run.
Well, I think they hot-shotted the belt on the Cardona on the fact that Cardona had a huge internet following and people were talking about him. But it didn't translate to anything. Like, I don't think a bunch of Cardona fans started showing up at the NWA events. It didn't move the needle. Everything Cardona did with Game Changer Wrestling was considered like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And by the time he was doing it in the NWA, it was like, been there, done that. And then he got hurt to make matters worse. So, like, nobody gave a shit about Matt Cardona in the NWA.
The only person I think right now that could be just a challenger just because he's a former champion would be Murdoch.
Yeah.
But there is nobody in the NWA right now, I think, that without a proper build-up, which I don't think the NWA could do, would matter one iota to him champion. The Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, does a much better job building him up. And hopefully he does the same thing for his own wrestling company.
Well, I think that's the overall issue. I mean, going back to all this, especially during parts of his reign, there wasn't anybody. We complained about it on this show. Is who's being built up to be champion? And then they put it on Murdoch, and they Ronnie Garvin'd him. Pope, well, I'm not going to challenge right now. Aldous, well, I'm not going to challenge right now either. But, when I want it, I'll win it. But, for now, I'm looking elsewhere. Put him in a feud with Mike Knox, who most people, let's be honest, didn't know or remember or anything. And, I mean, they tend to build stories when they think they're going to change the titles. When they were going to put the title on Marty Scurll, perhaps they were lucky that didn't happen. They were building a story. When they're going to put the title on Murdoch, they were building a story. When they were going to put the title on Cody, they were building a story. But really, and I have a feeling that Aldous probably had a lot more input on that building the story with Murdoch. But yeah, other than that, you were just always left kind of going, well, who is it? And we're asking that same thing like right now. Who in the NWA would we think, yeah, they're world title worthy and ready and whatever? And, sadly, the answer most of the time is no one or maybe one person.
Mr. Outside Hire.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
Why don't they put him against a TV champion? Oh, wait.
Yeah. Why do they keep making champions drop their titles to challenge?
And then New points out it's the same thing with the women's division, that there's a lack of rivalries. There's no serious contender. And, they'll do a match. They'll do a match, I'm sure, on the next TV tapings that'll declare a new number one contender. And it'll be the same cycle again. There are some good talents in that women's division. We know Markova just got her shot. Princesa Tiffany Nieves had her shot. It's starting to get to a point where, Kenzie could say she's pretty much beaten everybody, because she's pretty much beaten everybody except for Max. And I don't foresee that match happening anytime.
Well, she did beat Max once, just wasn't the world title.
Sure, I just meant like now as champion, as world champion. Remember, Kenzie lost the TV title to Max before failing upwards and winning the what was it, the Burke Invitational at the 75th?
Right.
If they're looking for somebody for the tag team champions, the Tonga twins quit. Wow.
I saw that. I actually did think about that.
Well, yeah, okay, so they would be an interesting dynamic to add, and especially with Reka Tahaka as part of the NWA, they could kind of rebuild that group that was in WoW, if you want to.
The Island Lines or whatever.
The problem is how the NWA does stuff, though.
Badly?
Well, in other words, they would bring in the twins and probably treat them like king bees. They bring the twins in and lose, and then they unexpectedly get another title match and then win. And it's just like, okay. Or I'll do like they did with those other twins where they'll put the title on them for a day and then lose them and hot shot the title so that people will be interested. And so I'm going to get into Powerrr a little bit here right now and say, I had an issue with Powerrr.
Before you get to that, just because you mentioned the Tonga twins, apparently they're the real life daughters of Sam Fatu, who was known as the Tonga Kid.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And the Tama, which was Sam Fatu, the Tonga Kid, the Samoan Savage's name, is actually why both Tama Tonga and Tongaloa have that name. Or Tamaloa.
Say that one more time because my brain did not register it.
The Tonga Kid.
Yes.
Sam Fatu, star of the Body Slam movie. Head shrinker, Samoan Savage, or SS team member Samoan Savage.
Yeah.
He is Haku's former tag team partner in the Islanders.
Yes.
And his name was Tama. And that's why Tama Loa and Tama Tonga have that name.
I didn't know that. All right.
I think he's their godfather.
That's
probably.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a whole NWA can get their own bloodline.
Oh, please don't say that.
Plasma line.
No, let's not do that either.
$50 you can sell your plasma.
I used to do that.
And they make plasma TVs.
Oh my God.
Anyway, as I was saying before Jay so really interrupted me.
Sorry.
My biggest issue with this week's show is when you go to the app and you go down the thing and you're seeing the 45-minute time limit, which the show has, and you're sitting there going, they're going to have 3 matches in a 45-minute show. So that's 15 minutes devoted to each match if you do nothing else. And somehow I knew they weren't going to do nothing else. And so what was I saying earlier with the Backlash? Fewer matches, add time.
Less is more.
Yeah. They could develop, you could get into them. And it's like there was no time to get into any of these matches. And one, why would you want to? And the other two, there would be reason to, because there were titles on the line. But there was no time. And, we'll talk about it more when we talk about the show bit by bit. But there was already, just going into it, you knew things were going to be rushed. And so, Jay, how did they start off this show?
So I thought the show started off really good with this. It was a very well done, well produced vignette. And, they've been doing a better job of having these vignettes. A voiceover with Joe Galley is typically what we see, but this time it was the voices of the men that were going to be in the ring. We were hearing from both EC3 and Silas Mason. And it was a very impassioned by both men where, EC3 acknowledges that Silas Mason has all the tools to be world's heavyweight champion. He's just not there yet. And says, to be the man, you got to beat the man, paying homage to the Nature Boy. And Silas Mason says he doesn't want that title. He doesn't need that title. He has to have that title. And these were such impassioned promos. It really felt like it had a big game feel to it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it made me actually, as a fan, a little bit more excited to see the match. And this was one of these matches that they did have a slight build to, but there's been almost no interaction between the two leading up to this point. But I felt like the promo was really, really, really good. So that's how the show kicked off. Then the in-ring action, we got the debut of AJ Francis, formerly known as Top Dollar from the WWE. And they build him as being a good friend of Brian Idol, which if you actually go back and look, they've actually spent a lot of time in the ring with each other. And Brian Idol brings him out as a friend, and Top Dollar, AJ Francis, it's quick to iterate that he's only there to manipulate him. That's the only reason why they're friends. And he's there to take over the NWA and to retire people like Brian Idol. Not a great promo for that match. I'm not a big fan of AJ Francis. Jaden, I know that you didn't watch the show, but what are your thoughts on Top Dollar AJ Francis? What do you think of him being in the NWA?
A lot of people, when they leave the WWE, especially when they came out from an outside force, they tend to leave wrestling altogether. So I like the fact that he's still trying to continue with this. This is something he wants to do. And working with MLW and Ring of Honor and NWA and Impact or wherever else he does is a good way to try to rebuild his career. I never thought he was the greatest. And I think he's a former football player, if I'm not mistaken. Like NFL football player. But if he has a chance to do something, if he can prove people wrong, I'd like to see him get the chance. It's just everything I've seen, I don't know if it's there yet. People have an epiphany, and sometimes they turn it on, and all of a sudden they become great. Hopefully he has that in the NWA, and it helps lead him in the NWA to something great. Otherwise, he's just known for being Flop Dollar.
Slop Dollar.
Flop Dollar. For when he fell over the ropes.
That's kind of like his moveset as being sloppy. DK, what did you think of the promo? Did it do anything for you? Were you excited for this matchup, or did it do anything for you?
Well, you covered two things. So let me first cover the video thing at the beginning, which shows that when they want to, there is talent back there who can put together a very good package.
Yes.
Very good package, very well produced, made good sense. So that's the positive. Let's hit a couple of positives. The announce team is so much better now. And
this is the best announced team we've had, right?
Oh, yeah.
Better than Galley and Cornette?
I think so.
I think in a way, because I don't think Danny Deals – I think there's a certain distraction that goes with Jim Cornette that you don't get with Danny Deals. I mean, wrestling knowledge-wise, you're not going to beat Cornette. But just having people sitting there calling the match, I think we got it good. Wish Velvet Sky the best, but she wasn't cutting it. I was okay with Tim Storm, but, Danny Deals has just been probably one of their best choices that they've made.
Are there any other positives?
The women's division in general is always positive. They put on much better matches than the men do. Still don't get billed, but, the matches themselves are put together better. But that's about – and sometimes they put on a really good show. They got some good talent. It's not that the talent's not good. So it's just sometimes – but not sometimes. The booking is almost always bad.
Yeah.
And so let's get here. AJ Francis. Jaden's nicer than me.
I didn't say it.
Well, I mean, I didn't watch when he was in WWE, but I did hear, about some of the thing. I know Vince thought he was going to be the star instead of Swerve because, you know, he was the big guy. Swerve was smaller then, about 180 pounds. And so, you know, Vince thought Top Dollar was going to be the star. He wasn't good in the ring. Of course, got famous for that. Almost falling on his head, breaking his own neck. And if I remember correctly, someone told me back then that one of the WWE announcers just brought up every time that guy was out there. I mean, they just...
That was probably Vince telling him to, though.
Yeah, they just shit on him and stuff. And so, you know, he was one of the people Triple H brought back that was in the mass releases. And I have a feeling Triple H said sometime later that not everybody they brought back is performing the way they were expecting them to perform. And I have a feeling that he was one of the people they were talking about. And so he did get cut again. And Jay and I were talking offline, and I was telling Jay, I go, this second time is when they were cutting people that didn't work out.
Right.
Weren't working. They weren't just releasing top names. It wasn't just contract dollars. You know, now when they're releasing people, they're releasing people who aren't cutting it. You know, Gable Stevenson to be one of the best examples.
How much does that hurt you? How much does that hurt you?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, I'm a big Gable Stevenson fan, but it doesn't hurt me in the sense that if you can't get it, then better not to do it.
Yeah.
The bad part is when they Mark Henry them. Where it's like, we paid a lot of money for this guy. We're going to get some of that money out of him. Well, I don't know that Mark Henry ever drew them a dime, to quote Mike Graham.
I think later Mark Henry did. That post-Cena run where he just pretended to retire and beat up Cena, he had a good run right after that. I think he drew him some money. He even got a stole a pay-per-view out of the Big Show out of that.
Yeah,
the House of Pain, Mark Henry.
Yeah, I didn't watch back then. So, I'll have to take your word on it. But honestly, I've seen Francis in TNA because I do record that and fast forward through it and watch some matches. And I watched a couple of his just because I was curious. And quite honestly, from what I watched in TNA, I see why WWE let him go. And so I kind of laughed when I think it was Joe Galley was like, he's the top free agent out there. I don't know who the top free agent out there is, but it's not
Holiday right now.
Yeah, so he comes out, he trashes the guy, he trashes the fans, he trashes everything. They put him in a no DQ match. Lazy booking, to quote Jim Cornette. And of course, the reason it has to be a no DQ match is because then that hides some of his weaknesses. He doesn't have to wrestle. And the match wasn't good. The match wasn't necessary.
Nope.
And it took time away from two matches, or one in particular, that had the chance to be better if they had had more time. So this is a good example of marking of a booker who's kind of marking for a former WWE property just because it's former WWE property. And I don't know where, I guess he lives in Florida or something. And so I don't know if they thought there would be enough Florida people to make it worthwhile, or he was better known there or whatever, but he's not that good in the ring, and there was no reason to.
One of the things that really irked me about this match is, and I normally have no problem with Joe Galley on commentary. In fact, I think Joe is pretty remarkable when it comes to commentary, but he said this once, and then he also said it later in the main event, and he says, you know, Brian could lead him out to deep water. And I paused for a second. My wife was sitting next to me while I was watching it, and she asked me why I stopped watching. And I said, they're using insider terms that not every wrestling fan knows to explain the process of blowing a wrestler up and then taking advantage of them when they're blown up. And not only that, but like I haven't seen anything out of Brian Idol to suggest that he's some sort of technical wizard or some great condition pro athlete that he could lead somebody out to deep water in terms of pro wrestling. It was such a gross use of the term, like to use it to tell the fans what's going on, to use it to expect those two goofs to even execute anything remotely close to a 5-star wrestling match where you could generally lead somebody to water to tire them out, like something that Ric Flair would do or Rick Steamboat, was an insult to me as a wrestling fan, to be quite honest. And I was pissed off when Joe Galley said it. And it pissed me off when he said it later in the night, because it's like, you just said these two goofs are going to do that, and then you put that on the same guys who are in the main event. It's like, come on, Galley, change up the material. Change up the material. Quit using that kind of vernacular to an audience that, one, doesn't appreciate what you're even saying, and two, you're using it to describe two goofs, period. They're goofs. Brian Idol's a goof. AJ Francis is a goof. Neither one of them have done anything to make me want to see them wrestle.
Well, one more small thing on Joe Galley, even though it's in later. Joe, stop using Sweet Charlotte.
That was Adam Pearce.
That was an Adam Pearce thing.
That's a Dave Marquez thing.
It's not a branding that's used, the current NWA is using. And I mean this as nicely as possible, but it's very markish. It's like somebody who wants to come across as big. I can remember people doing it after Bruce Tharpe took over, and some people are still calling it Sweet Charlotte. And Bruce said, he goes, Sweet Charlotte died in the ring in Australia.
Yeah.
He goes, it got left there. And, just move on. Let's get past these things. Again, most people don't know what you're talking about when you're saying Sweet Charlotte. They don't know why you're using the term. They don't know where it comes from.
And I always thought Charlotte came across as a real bitch on TV.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah. She was never really a good baby face. She was much better heel.
Yes.
Well, what's funny is that Pierce coined that term long before Charlotte was Ric Flair's daughter.
Not before she was his daughter.
Oh, okay.
She was Ashley.
She was Ashley. He used that as a term of endearment, Sweet Charlotte, but it had nothing to do with Ashley Flair, and it had everything to do with, the Mid-Atlantic, Sweet Charlotte. It's interesting how that became her name in the WWE, and those two things I don't think are connected whatsoever. But it's ironic that
only
Charlotte
connection is obviously Ric Flair.
Right. But it was more supposed to just be paying homage to Ric Flair in a different way that Adam Pearce did on his own. That wasn't. And I feel like Galley tries to force it down your throat now. And I like Joe Galley. I think he does a really good job. But both those things very much irked me on this broadcast.
So what was the next match?
So the next match, and this is where I think DKM was alluding to not getting enough time, was the Four Corners match that was going to feature Blake Bulletproof Troop, Idolmania's Zion. Then we were also getting Birchill and Tom Latimer. Now, there were qualifying matches for this throughout the TV tapings, but it seems like so long ago and so disconnected from what we saw tonight. It almost felt like there was no connection to what we had seen. This would have been a great time, again, if you didn't run this AJ Francis versus Brian Idol match. You could have had highlights leading up to this match. You could have had highlights of, hey, this is who Latimer beat to advance. This is who Birchill beat to advance. You could have told the story a little bit better, and it would have made the match even more meaningful. It just, you brought out 4 guys to wrestle for a belt, and there was no, like, at least for the local audience, there wasn't a lot of build to it. And again, these matches that we watched took place months ago, not just weeks ago, months ago. So I kind of feel like you kind of killed some of the momentum that you could have used, and you could have reminded us of the momentum. You could have reminded us of those matches. It would have been very easy to do that. Instead, we got AJ Francis versus Brian Idol. So we get the matchup, and I didn't think this was a horrible matchup, but it did feel like the finish was rushed. It felt very, very quick, and it did lead to some desertion in the ranks, if you will. The finals of the match, Tom Latimer was dazed and confused, and it looked like Blake Bulletproof Troop was about to drop one of his hand grenades on him. And Chris Silvio stopped Bulletproof and told him to use a different move, in which Bulletproof tried to do like a spinning wheel kick that Tom Latimer turned into a power bomb for the 1-2-3. And new champion, which is great for Tom Latimer, very much deserving. The match itself wasn't bad, but I can't think of very many highlights from it. DK, what were your thoughts on that match?
Well, first of all, the one thing you skipped over was that they did a interview with Tom Latimer in the back.
That's right. Yep. Sorry.
Which was a very good promo for Tom. It was very well and told us exactly who was getting ready to win the match.
Yeah.
So if I hadn't already known that Latimer had won, I would have known just from this. So it was a good interview, but it let us know who was going to win. It should have been saved for after.
Yep.
2, of course, you know how I feel about multi-man matches for titles. I mean, I don't like multi-man matches without titles. I certainly hate them with titles, especially when they're a one-fall thing.
Yeah, if it's elimination, I can deal with it. I can't deal with that. The one fall's stupid.
And then you get this match where, again, moves that normally a person bounces back from in anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds, knocks people out of the ring, and they stay out of the ring for 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, so that we can have a one-on-one match in the ring. Because Lord knows we're not going to have, much four-way action. And then an end that just happens kind of out of nowhere. And you're like, oh, it's over. I mean, I literally missed it. The dog had jumped up on the couch next to me, and I petted him, and I heard, and that's the 3 count, or, whatever they were saying. And I'm looking up, I'm like, what? And then Tom Latimer is handed the belt, and they disappear immediately. And it's just like, okay. I don't even know what happened. I did not know the finish until Jay said it.
And he could have rewound it, so I did tell you how much he cares.
It's a pain in the ass to run out on the CW app. You get more.
CW I was afraid if I rewound it even a couple of spots that CW would start playing commercials. Because almost every time I rewind or fast forward, CW plays commercials.
They do inundate you with commercials too.
Unfortunately, I know because I used to watch all the DC shows, Arrowverse shows, and that is 100% true.
I guess the Reverse Flash is coming back too, the Superman and Lois or whatever it is.
I will say one thing is that
Wait, are they bringing back Superman and Lois?
What's the show that they have on right now on the CW?
I don't know. I haven't watched anything in a while. I liked Superman and Lois, but I kind of stopped watching it. I knew they were canceling it.
I think it's still on the air.
Yeah, I think it was the last season, but I hope they do something. The whole reason they're not doing it is because they don't want 2 Supermen out there. But I think this Tyler guy is actually one of the better Supermen they've done in a long time.
Tyler Hoechlin?
Sure. But go ahead, DK.
Next week we can talk about the new Superman suit. But yeah, just back to it. It was just, I don't know. You just kind of came away with it not meaning anything. And then while we were in commercial, which they somehow, I guess, figured out what's going to be, they show the post match where Blake Troop put Silvio, in a what did he put him in, a sleeper?
Yeah. I sat there.
Not even a choke. It's an actual sleeper. And it's just like,
I sat there and I was like, when are they going to pull Blake Troop out of this whole thing? I mean, he's decent enough. His promos are pretty good. Like I think he has pretty good promos considering. And his in-ring isn't great, but it's not awful. And he looked really good in this match. And Silvio gets in the way and cost him the opportunity to win the match. And I just kept thinking, like, how much longer are they going to keep him with Silvio? Like, they're not gelling. He hasn't succeeded. If I had a manager that cost me the title, I'd probably beat the shit out of him. And then when it comes back from commercial, he's choking him out. And I'm like, all right, they're putting him in a sleeper hold. He put him in a sleeper hold. And I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. Matthew Underwood brings up a good idea saying, or not a good idea, but something to note. I had to rewind it too, but it's crazy that Burchill got no story out of this. My prediction, Burchill will team with Tom Latimer at the Crockett Cup as the Commonwealth Connection.
Question for you.
Yeah, let's go.
Without looking it up, do you remember who any of these guys beat to get into this?
No, that's what I said. Like they wasted that opportunity to retell us. I think Zion beat AJ Kazana, and I mean now you're gonna make me go look. I think Tom Latimer.
I mean, I don't want you to go look. That's my whole point.
Well, no, but now you made me because now I have to know, right? Like that's how my dumb brain works.
And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe.
But anyway, while he looks, it's just, this is so ridiculous. And, I didn't even remember who Burchill was.
I was right.
I
was right. Zion did defeat AJ Kazana. I was right.
All right. Yeah, I guess. But, I mean, I was literally struggling to remember who he was and why he was in there. And I know I don't know who he beat because I forgot he was in the match. During the match, I forgot he was in the match.
Burchill beat Magic Jake.
Ugh.
Okay.
Blake Troop beat Brian Idol by referee's decision. And Tom Latimer beat Carson Drake.
Who?
So
I recognize the name Carson Drake. I think he's actually a decent independent wrestler, if I remember.
No, he is. And he's, we were talking about him earlier because he is on the other side of EC3, Ashton Day, and Richard Holiday versus Carson Drake and the Slime Balls. He's also been a part of the NWA Powerrr roster for a little bit now. He most recently teamed up with Dax Draper and Mims to take on Judeus, Max, and I think Gags or Sal, one of them.
I don't know. I just remember he helped beat up
Dax.
So
and then now that takes us to the main event, which was
I know you're forgetting something.
What I forget now?
Powerrr spoke.
Oh, that's right.
And it's important because this is time.
This was
on the short show before the world title match.
His overtures at an anonymous person and talking about the ego and the mind and not really giving us anything of concrete. I will admit that my phone literally skipped it and I had it went back to commercial during this promo. So I don't know how much of it I actually got to see, but it's just more Vampiro rambling, which has kind of become the norm for him. And the last time we saw Vampiro in a ring, he was making overtures to Natalia Markova, So now you kind of have to wonder if he's speaking directly to Markova when he's talking about.
He was at the very end of it. He goes, "You should have taken the flowers."
Oh, okay. So
basically, he's saying, "Now we're coming after you since we gave you the chance, but now we're coming after you." Except for he said it in 5,000 words that didn't need to be said
on a show that had 2 title matches and
not much time.
And so then that brings us to the main event, of course, EC3 versus Silas Mason, the Overman, because he's over, man, versus the Thrillbilly Silas Mason. I got to watch this match. I got to be honest with you. I enjoyed the match itself, but there was a point where the screen went gray, and I don't know why it went gray. DK, did you see something I didn't? Why did the screen go gray?
Well, Joe Galley said that apparently EC3 cut his arm, had a cut on his arm. So even though you could, I mean, I guess the black and white did what it was supposed to do because you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see anything that was just like there was a lot of blood. So it wasn't bleeding a lot or whatever, but I guess even the smallest amount, they got to gray it out. And it's just, unfortunately, it's a bad effect.
What I did like about this match, though, is I feel like the repeated 1%ers to pin Silas Mason definitely made him look strong. And there were times in the match where he was dominating EC3, which I feel is important because whatever they end up doing with Silas Mason down the road, I mean, he gave up the national title to challenge for the 10 pounds of gold. He lost to the Overman. So where do you put Silas Mason next? And I'm not entirely sure what you do with him now. However, he had a really strong match against EC3 and maybe pushed EC3 as much as somebody as Tom Latimer had in the past, maybe even more. And I'm not going to tell you that I sat there on bated breath expecting Silas Mason to have his hand raised at the end of the match, but what it did make me think is maybe there'll be a part 2. Maybe this will be a story that they continue to grow with and produce and build something towards. And I mean, that's the best thing I could think about it. The match itself was fine. I don't think it made anyone look like a bigger star than they already were, but it certainly kept. You could have made Silas Mason look very weak in this match. You could have made him look very neutered in this match, and that's not the case. They kept him looking strong. Do you agree or disagree, DK?
I think they did as well as they could for the limitations that they had placed on themselves.
Okay.
This is actually the match I was referring to that could have used more time.
Yeah, okay.
This was the match that, I mean, it's your world title. This is the match where there should have been a little more, feeling out and growth and, till you get to the crescendo. I do have one criticism, and I don't know if you'll agree or not, but at the end, when he had put EC3 in that corner and then took a light jog towards him.
Yeah.
So that EC3 could slowly jump out of the way and then hit the corner. And did he fall out of it? I don't remember. Or just fall back in.
I think he fell out of it.
Yeah, it was not convincing. It looked like a little too rehearsed and a little too tried, and it didn't look like it went right. And then EC3 goes in, hits the 1%er after hitting 2 earlier and only getting a 1 count. Apparently, hitting your chest at a slow light jog will be enough to cause the 1%er to let you get pinned. Overall, yeah, the match was, take that out. Overall, the match was fine for what it was, but it didn't have time. It didn't tell me a story. It didn't get my emotions involved. Now, a lot of that's the NWA's fault, or this match took place 2 months ago. I already know who won, and I'm still trying to figure out what's happening at Crockett Cup. because I'm actually going to that next week. And, how many teams have they announced? One?
None.
Well, they keep saying the World Tag Team Champions will be there.
Okay.
So I'm assuming they'll be part of the Crockett Cup. And that's like all they told us. They've just like, was it today's? The El Rudo said that he was challenging for the title or whatever.
No, he's acknowledged it for like ever since the flyer came out. So like,
but
at the very least,
it might be maybe the NWA for the first time acknowledged it today.
Yeah,
because all their posters that if you go look, or not posters, all their graphics if you go look right now, is just scheduled to appear, scheduled to appear, scheduled to appear. It's like, okay, look, King Bees are scheduled to appear. We don't know if they'll be defending their titles, talking to the crowd
in the Crockett Cup.
Because why not?
Well, I mean, why not? They had Max in it last year.
Exactly. So
if you had 2 months to build a pre-taped match, how are these not backstage promos interactions taped? You could add layers. Add the build was okay. The tapings had the joint promo that was great. Yeah, but you see what you're saying, Matthew, is the same thing we're saying. It's like there's time. There's been time. Now, I don't know how soon they have to deliver the content to the CW and vice versa. Like maybe there are some restrictions on how soon they need the content. But I mean,
it's pure planning. This is where they should be using the Twitter and the YouTube page and the Instagram and the Facebook and the MySpace and the I can't remember those old chats and the message boards and the news groups and the AOL Instant Messenger and all that stuff for. They should be having promos. They should be cutting promos probably afterwards. Somewhere they can do. I mean, Paul Lee used to have people doing it in his basement.
Well, and
have people cutting those promos and out there everywhere in social media to hype this. How the hell are you even going to get any views if nobody even knows this thing exists or has a chance to care about any of the matches? It's just they're lucky enough to hit the damn app, and it's the 30 people that we listen to our show that promote it.
And part of the problem is this absolute ridiculous concept of they don't acknowledge anything that's happened until it's shown on TV.
Yeah.
And
then the thing that also irks me about that is then they delay and they drag their feet on putting that stuff out. So like, you just crowned your national champion and you waited till the last taping from Dothan to show that match. You waited to the last part of this hard times when that probably should have been the first one, so that you could have had Tom Latimer out there promoting the fact that he's the national champion, that he could be taking that title to town, that he could really, show off the title. In the meantime, he's had to be quiet about it for 4 weeks and literally just broke the fourth wall last week by showing the title before he won it on TV. I bet you he got an angry letter from Billy about that.
Probably. Sounds like it. It sounds like something.
Hopefully he's not a bass player.
That might be your swan song.
They might be. Actually, they've got a new guitarist too, by the way.
Yeah. Anyways, so I mean, there were some good things about Powerrr, but ultimately, I think what DK and I are both, if we could summarize it into a few sentences, let's get rid of some of the stuff that we don't need, like a matchup featuring a guy who could cut it in the WWE, and let's put more emphasis on some backstage promos. Let's put them in the right place. Pacing is everything, and let's give more time to the main event that deserves it.
And do something to actually make people care about this damn thing at all.
That's, and again, we're heading towards Crockett Cup. It's literally next Saturday. It would have been nice if they could have just released some of the names who are going to be in the Crockett Cup on the channel, on the show. And if that's not possible because of demands with the CW or whatever, they could at least be putting these out on social medias, like DK said. I mean, that's what you or Jaden said. YouTube. Matthew Underwood said Discord. You've got a live stream every Monday with our pal Gary Horn and Joe Galley and Danny Deals and Kyle Davis. They could be talking about that too, and they could be pushing those matches out there. Like, hey, this is what's going to be at Crockett Cup. You're not hearing it on TV. You're here her first, whatever. But it's nothing. We're getting radio silence, and which is the hallmark of this ownership group of the NWA.
And right now, looking at the ticket map, I would say they're less than 50% sold. I haven't done actual counting, but just looking at it, it doesn't look like they've sold 50% of tickets.
Our pal David says that the NWA has released the names on the Facebook, but as I look at Facebook right now, I don't see anything that involves names that'll be at the Crockett Cup.
Other than the one poster that's already been out for a while now.
Yeah, the poster's been out for a while. I mean, I see that. I mean, there's a video of Joe Galley talking about it, but so far I don't see any names.
Well, like I said, they released those graphics for the people that
real quick, DK, have you ever had one of Uncle Wiggley's wieners?
I've never ever, and I don't know that I'm going to anytime soon either. So
if they hand them out at the show, I will have one of Uncle Wiggley's wieners, but I'm not going to go pay for it.
Real quick, there's an old thing. People decide they're going to do something often about 2 weeks before that actually happens. When you're promoting, the most important times to promote in order is week 2, week 3, week 4, week 1. The worst time to do any promotions is the last minute. The NW doesn't even give you that half the time.
No.
Yeah, the Uncle Wiggley's, the graphic for that has the graphics where I'm talking about. Scheduled to appear, EC3. In what manner? I mean, they're right here. They're not saying it's a title defense.
Yeah, the only person that's saying it's a title defense is Sam Adonis. I haven't heard it anywhere else.
Exactly.
And the Alliance Guys podcast.
In the Alliance Guys podcast.
The only thing that's promoting the NWA weekly, consistently.
Us in a podcast that's based in the UK that doesn't even get to see it without the use of a VPN. So,
by the way, everybody should own a VPN.
Okay, so Kenzie Page scheduled to appear. Blunt Force Trauma scheduled to appear. Not in the tournament, not in the cup. They're scheduled to appear. King B scheduled to appear. Max the Impaler scheduled to appear. Maybe she'll defend one of her titles. Joe Alonzo scheduled to appear. Excuse me. Maybe they will defend one of their titles. But again, is Joe Alonzo going to be defending his title, or is Joe Alonzo going to be part of a tag team in the Crockett Cup? And William Patrick Corgan scheduled to appear.
Is he going to be wrestling? Is he going to be wrestling in the Crockett Cup? We don't know.
I think he's going to announce that Dog Pound is going to be the new member territory in the NWA in Texas. That's my prediction. I've said it.
And he should go to San Antonio, where they're based out of.
Just heads up, NWA Dog Pound is trademarked.
Is it really?
Yeah. I have to check to see if the dog still owns that trademark, but they did at one time.
The Southern Six scheduled to appear. And, of course, they're showing all 3 of them. So yeah. So they're basically have only brought up 2 male tag teams.
Yeah. And that's a Crockett Cup this year. Budget cuts,
Right.
Maybe they should get Superman and Flash and Archie and Jughead and Walker, Texas Ranger, and I'm trying to think what other show they put on that station.
They should probably do something. I don't know. Who do you think is going to be
Crockett Cup champion? I bet you the tag team that wins it is going to be the champion.
I want Murdoch's to be the first team to win it twice.
Well, what else are you going to do with Murdoch's? I mean, that's the thing, too. Like, and we talk about the NWA painting themselves into a corner, man. Like, okay, so the feud with Blunt Force Trauma, who are your tag team champions, they currently do not have a storyline going into Crockett Cup. There are no rivals for them. Odinson and Kratos gave up their U.S. tag titles, right? Challenge for the world tag titles and lost. So now they are at the bottom of the ladder, essentially, unless, unless.
And let's not forget, they had 2 tournament matches for the U.S. tag title at the same. One of the tournament matches took place before the challenge to the world a title, the World Tag Team title. And there's been no. Do they fill it at the TV taping?
Maybe. Or maybe that this will be the first time they crown the U.S. Tag Champions as the Crockett Cup champions.
And then Blunt Force Trauma wins, it becomes double champions. We get rid of those stupid tag belts that they don't need.
Well, we hope so, but that's not. I've been wanting them to get rid of the national title every time the national title's gone vacant.
Yeah.
And they keep filling it.
Well, I don't want to kick any more dirt on the dead horse that we're talking about here. We will be back on Tuesday with the pre-party.
Pre-party.
And like I said, next Thursday, God, that's already, geez, it's crept up on me pretty quickly here. I'll be in Dallas doing the pre-party. Should we meet up somewhere, DK? You want to do it from the same spot?
Yeah, we can.
Is there a Hooters in Texas?
We can't, I can't go to
Hooters. No, Jaden. Why would Texas have Hooters?
I went to Hooters with Alliance Gold Tim and his lovely wife Raluca after the 75th anniversary show. And I'll never forget my time with them at Hooters. It was really magical.
I don't want to know. We've run long enough as it is.
All right, guys. So we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, that's a nice looking belt you got there.
Did you mail it yet, DK? Because I haven't seen it.
Of course not.
Okay. Let me know.
It's only been in the trunk of my car waiting for me to actually stop by the place to mail it.
Well,
just don't go to Staples.
No, I don't do Staples.
Expletive Staples.
Oh.
But just in case anybody wants to know about a title that might mean something. Just in case anybody wants to.
That I do like that belt. That is a very pretty belt.
Are you coming with us to the formerly known as ECW Arena, the 2300 Arena, to defend it?
I wouldn't defend a tag team title on my own, though.
Oh, he says that and then jumps off the air. He was scared of you.
Apparently so.
You treasure. See, Lou knew the story that our server's name was Treasure. So whenever I talk about that, I say I treasured my moment. I don't think we're going to get Jaden back on, but that's okay because we're closing out the show anyways. So again, guys, we'll be back on Tuesday with the pre-party. Your boy Jay will be here talking all things NWA. And then Thursday, live from Dallas, Jay, DK, maybe Jaden, we'll be talking Crockett Cup. Hopefully there'll be some matches to talk about. And look at that's a pretty belt, dude. I really do like that. And Jaden, you're just in time to say goodnight.
Good night, Gracie. Anyway, dog hit 1,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Our friends over at the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, with the help of you, the Alliance family, the Alliance Guys Network. What do we call the group? Whatever. Our friends at the Alliance.
Our family at the Alliance.
You guys stepped up, man. You guys helped Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators surpass 1,000 subscribers. We couldn't be prouder of Dog. And again, thank you guys so much for helping them get there. Maybe we will have Dave Dahl on just to insult him for 20 minutes or so and then kick him off the air as a way to celebrate. I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet, but we will think of something. But again, go if you haven't done so yet. A lot of our new viewers in the chat, and I'm looking at you, David. Go subscribe to the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator page. They finally surpassed 1,000. A lot of new matches are coming up every week. Some stuff from the Vault too I've seen, and you really do want to get a part of that dog audience, be a part of that dog pack, right?
Yes, there's one more match that's going to be midnight tonight at Eastern Standard Time, and then there'll be 3 matches that will go live next week. We're also waiting to hear a promo from Breaker Morant and Curtis Robinson for the Dog Championship match on May 25th at the VFW in Summerdale for Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Alliance.
Well, there it is. So that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for being here, and we will catch up with you next week. Until then, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Powerrr. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are